Good afternoon, everybody. So you just heard from Carlos and he riled you up. I'm not going to do that. I actually want to turn the volume down a little bit. I think when it comes to the issue of homelessness, it is extremely important to actually turn the volume down. We have, for too long in Venice, had ideological wars over the issue of homelessness. We've turned this into a black and white, one-size-fits-all issue. And in the middle of that, we've forgotten that homelessness is not an issue. Homelessness is about people, about individual people with individual needs, individual situations, individual problems that require individual solutions. And too often here in Venice, we have an ideological divide that is black and white, that says everybody who is opposed to any homeless program is a right-wing Nazi who hates people. And that's not right. And on the other hand, we have an ideological divide that says anybody who supports anybody who is suffering from economic misfortune is stuck in the 60s and is trying to destroy the neighborhoods of Venice. And that is not right. There is no one such thing as homelessness. There are many, many different situations. There are people who are living on the streets right now because they've fallen off the bottom rung of the economic ladder. And they need a hand up. They need someone to help them get affordable housing. They need some economic assistance. And they need a job, or they need permanent services. And we have a moral obligation to do that. There are people living on the streets because they are suffering from addiction or mental illness. And they are harder to reach and they are harder to help. But we have a moral obligation to reach out and help them. There are people living on the streets right now who are veterans, who have given all for our country. There are people living on the streets right now who are children. And we have a moral obligation to get them housing and to get them off the streets. At the same time, and I know this is not something that people on this side of the ideological divide always want to hear, there are people living on the streets right now who are out to do harm in our community, who commit crime, who are criminals, and we need to get them off the streets and out of our neighborhoods. And that is equally important. We have a moral obligation to do that as well. We talk way too often about the right to sleep on the sidewalk, and not nearly often enough about the right to housing. It serves no one. It does not serve the individual. It does not serve the homeless, and it does not serve our neighborhoods for people to be living on our streets. We need to find housing and supportive services for everyone who needs them, everyone who can accept them, anyone who can be housed, and anyone who can have services. It is absolutely important that we do that. Absolutely important. We need, as our last speaker talked about, to stop the foreclosures. We need to build more affordable housing. We need to build permanent supportive housing with services for people who need it. We also need to protect the affordable housing that we have now. We cannot allow it to be stolen, we cannot allow it to be diminished, and we cannot allow it to be hidden. And when the city says to a developer, as I will often do, you can't build unless you build affordable housing, that needs to be more than a promise. That needs to be a reality. We need to make sure that the housing that is earmarked as affordable stays affordable. For 30, for 40, for 50, for perpetuity, on into the future. Our moral obligation, everyone here today, is not to fight with everybody in the neighborhood. It's not to fight over who gets to live on the streets. It's to marshal our energy to talk to the people who disagree with us and get everybody together in the fight to build more affordable housing and to get people with a roof over their head. That's the fight I'm going to be taking up. That's where I'm going to focus my energy, and that's what I hope we can do together. Thank you.